Shai Davidai, since October 7th, you have become one of the world's most public voices in sounding the alarm of skyrocketing Jew hatred. Now, 15 people have been killed at a Hanukkah event in Australia. Shai, how did we get here?
Raj, thank you so much for having me. Well, the first thing that I want to say is, yes, it's Jew hatred, but it's more than that. It's against everything that we stand for as Western democracy, as our liberal Western values. Um, it's really clear how we got here. We have let, for dozens of years, we have let academia and the media and politics be taken over by a very sinister ideology that sees the Jews and the Jewish homeland as the evil oppressor of everything. And people just use this as this plaster. They throw on it whatever they don't like about themselves. If you have a problem with racism in your country, then the Jews become the racists. If you have a problem with capitalism, then the Jews become the capitalists. If you have a problem with communism, then the Jews become the communists. The problem is that these kind of hatreds have always lied dormant in beer halls, right? The 1930s Germany is what comes to mind. But now they're not happening in beer halls. They're happening in lecture halls all over the United States, all over North America. The shooting in Australia is just the last or the most recent event in this case. We've had in DC, we've had 2 people murdered in a Jewish event. In Boulder, Colorado, we've had a man throwing Molotov cocktails on Holocaust survivors. In the UK, in the Yom Kippur, 2 people murdered outside of her synagogue. It just keeps happening in Toronto, in Montreal. Jewish day schools are getting shot at. But this is not different than the mass slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. Right? It's happening in the same ideology. It's an ideology that sees you and I as the evils. Why? Because you're a Christian, I'm a Jew. We believe in democracy. We believe in freedom of speech. And that is something that they cannot handle.
Well, Shai, let me ask you this. One of the, as a student of the Holocaust, I'd like to think of myself and anti-Semitism. It always seems that anti-Semitism slithers its way around to become palatable and digestible to the current generation. And now I'm not anti-Jewish. I don't like Israel. And I oppose everything about the Jewish state. And that's why all this violence is happening. How would you respond to that?
Well, of course, that is the rhetoric that's happening right now. And I read this really interesting quote. Anti-Zionism, this quote-unquote hatred of Israel, anti-Zionism is just anti-Semitism after it went to college. That's it. The guys, the father and son who were just really like hunting people down in the Hanukkah party, they didn't stop and ask each and every person there, do you believe in Israel's right to exist or not? They just saw a Jew and they said, we will kill those people. The same thing when a Jewish student gets punched in the face outside of Columbia University. No one stopped and asked them, what is their vision for the Middle East? But at the core, anti-Zionism is a hate movement because Zionism is nothing more and nothing less than the Jewish people's right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. Just like any other people, the Jewish people deserve a place. And when you say the Jewish people don't deserve a place, then you're not just against Israel or Zionism. You're against the Jewish people.
Let me ask you this, brother, and to get a little personal, how are you feeling after what happened in Australia? And I guess more broadly, what's the feeling amongst the Jewish community?
There's a lot of confusion and a lot of anger and a lot of fear. I walk around visibly Jewish. I'm not an observant Jew, but I wear a Star of David, and I always tell the world I'm Jewish. So do my kids. And I want to just be able to be Jewish in public and be left alone, right? But right now, and for many, many years, if I want to take my kids to a celebration, if it's Hanukkah, if it's Passover, if it's just, whatever, we need armed guards. We need the NYPD or the LAPD or the San Diego PD around us. That is just a feeling, that's a reality that I can't really explain to my kids. When my son turned to me and said, like, why do they hate us? And I said, I don't have an answer for you, but the fact is that there are many people out there that do, and we have to deal with it, and we have to not stoop to that very level and actually make the world a better place, understanding that there will always be people there that hate us. The problem is not that there are few people out there. The problem is that this has been institutionalized. When you have a professor at Columbia University saying that suicide bombing is not really barbarism, it's not terrorism, it's just political action. And that professor is Mahmoud Mamdani, and his son Zoran Mamdani is now going to be the mayor of the city with the most Jews in the world. That scares us. We don't know, what he's going to not do or not do, but what he's going to allow others to do or not do. And that is a real point of fear for many of us.
Well, you're a person that has their finger on the pulse of the next generation of what's being said on social media. And I think for maybe a lot of Americans who are just, I go to work, I pick my kids up from school, I go to Target if I need to, but they're like, it's over there kind of thing. But you keep talking about this institutionalized anti-Semitism, frankly. And so maybe could you just peel the onion back a little bit? What's really going on in these places of influence?
So, my expertise, for lack of a better word, is academia, because that's where I've spent the past 15 years, 6 years at Columbia University, and before that in other universities. And you just see it in every aspect. You see it in classes where students are being told a one-sided, hateful narrative about Jews and about Israel, and are being instructed to take it as fact. I'll add to that we're also being told the same hateful narratives about the United States, right? About how the US is on stolen land and they should accept that as fact and feel bad about that. How they are inherently racist and they should be accepted as fact, right? So you got that at classes, you have that at departmental events, you have that in associations of professors that combine themselves from all over the country, that they elect to boycott the only Jewish homeland, the only democracy in the Middle East, and they elect to boycott it. You have that on very different levels. And then you have the administrators who are so afraid of these radical faculty, and we're talking dozens of faculty in each university, that they just let them reign free. This is what leads to at Columbia University, not only professors and students chanting against Jews and the Jewish homeland, but also holding, instead of a Veterans Day, a Martyrs Day. So they dedicated Veterans Day to a day of, I guess, honoring terrorists.
Wow.
There's no other way to say it. So when people tell me, it's hard to follow, I tell them I agree. It's so complicated and hard to follow, but I want them to remind them it's not happening there. It's happening here, and it's going to come to where you live unless we all fight against that.
Yeah, I obviously how a nation treats the Jewish people has always been a canary in the coal mine moment. And so maybe in closing, brother, you speak, you're very vocal on social media. You actually, before I get to my question, you actually said something about the state of Israel that I thought was really profound. Something along the lines of, this is actually what happened in Australia is why the state of Israel is necessary. How did you phrase that?
Yeah, well, I said that as long as things like the massacre in Australia happens, that is the best reason why we need the state of Israel. For many, many Jews in the diaspora, and we're talking millions of Jews all over the world outside of Israel, Israel is the emergency exit. While they might not live in Israel now, they know that, if things turn really, really bad, they can escape. And we need the emergency exit. Right now,
Wow.
what's happening is that we have terrorists attacking the emergency exit and then terrorists attacking people that are stuck inside the building. So
Yeah.
every attack like this reminds us why we need Israel so badly.
Well, I know you said you're not observant, but as a Christian, I do believe that the hatred of the Jewish people is a hatred of the God of the Jewish people and a hatred of the God of Israel. And so, as a Christian, I wholeheartedly condemn emotionally, spiritually, everything that comes against the Jewish people. And just so you know that I know I speak for millions of Christians who actually mean never again and actually mean not on our watch. But this is a predominantly Christian audience, and I guess maybe in closing, Shai, you go out of your way to get on social media, to go into public squares and shout. And I'm sure it must feel like at certain points where it's like, is this actually doing anything? It must feel very isolating. But you're pushing back. You're doing the hard work. So here you have this audience that's watching you now, Shai. What can we actually do?
I tell everyone, thank you so much for this opportunity. I tell everyone, first of all, educate yourself. There are amazing, very, very like intro level books for people who want to understand what's going on with Israel. I'm actually writing a book myself, but I won't put a shameless plug now. But there's podcasts. You can listen to my podcast, Here I Am with Shai Davidai, where you'll hear other people's stories, Jews and non-Jews, who have been confronting this. So just educate yourself of what's going on. Reach out to a Jewish community in your area. Just come to listen, come to ask questions. And I know sometimes people feel like I don't want to offend and ask the wrong questions. There is no wrong questions. It's all about learning about each other. And I'll leave you with one thing about Hanukkah, because a lot of non-Jews they know that Hanukkah is happening now, and they don't really know what Hanukkah is about. At its core, Hanukkah was about Jewish people standing up to the Greeks that opposed our monotheism. The Greeks wanted to force idolatry and paganism on the Jews in Judea and Samaria, and the Jews said, no, we're standing tall, and that was the revolt. And Hanukkah is, and then comes the miracles and all that, but Hanukkah, that's how it all starts. So what you have to do is just stand tall and say, we will not accept your paganism. If it's paganism in religion, or if it's paganism that comes out of Columbia University, we have to
Wow.
stand. And if we all stand together, because it is one fight.
Wow. Wow. Very well put. Shai Davidai, Toda Bachi. We're praying for you. We're praying for your people. And we're praying, obviously, for the Jewish community in Australia. Shai, thanks again, my brother.
Thank you so much.